let's start with a simple idea that changes the whole cybersecurity conversation. Privacy is no longer sitting quietly behind the firewall. It has become the perimeter itself. Every time a GenAI system collects data, learns from it, generates an output, or infers something new, that perimeter moves. And that is fascinating, because the system may reveal information that nobody explicitly typed into it. Chapter 7 frames privacy as a human right, a source of autonomy, and the foundation of trust in AI systems. It also makes privacy very practical. We are talking about health records, financial details, personally identifiable information, and the risk of identity theft, fraud, surveillance, or profiling. So, throughout this chapter, keep one question in mind. Who gets to know what, for which purpose, and for how long? We will look at the risks, the technical protections, consent and governance, anonymization, real cases, global regulation, and the trends already shaping the next privacy battle. The goal is not to make GenAI impossible to use. It is to make useful innovation compatible with human control. Chapter 7 breaks the privacy challenge into 3 fronts, and the key is that they are connected. First, data privacy asks what information enters the system, how it is collected, how it is shared, and whether it can be linked back to a person. This is where deepfakes, leakage, and re-identification appear. Second, model privacy focuses on what the model itself may expose. A model can be stolen, manipulated, extracted, or queried in ways that reveal information from its training data. Model inversion and membership inference make this especially important. Third, user privacy asks what happens to the people represented by the data or affected by generated content. Do they retain ownership? Was their consent explicit? Is generated information being stored longer than necessary? Now, here is the interesting part. These are not 3 separate compliance checklists. Weak access control around a model can become a user privacy incident. Poor data handling can become a misleading output, and synthetic content can harm a person even when the underlying dataset looked anonymous. Privacy, therefore, has to be systemic. Protect the information, protect the intelligence built from it, and protect the individual. Privacy risk is not a single event at the end of the pipeline. It changes shape at every stage of the data journey. During collection, the danger is taking more personal data than the task actually needs. During preparation, identifiers may remain in the dataset, or anonymization may be too weak. During training, a model can memorize sensitive examples or inherit bias from the data. At query time, carefully designed prompts or attacks may infer whether a person was included in the training set or reconstruct private attributes. Then comes generation. An output may repeat, infer, or convincingly fabricate personal information. Finally, when outputs are shared or retained, the exposure can spread far beyond the original purpose. Pause on that for a second. A control placed only at the final output stage is already late. Chapter 7 points us toward a continuous control loop. Minimize what is collected, anonymize what must be used, restrict who can access it, encrypt data and models, monitor behavior, and delete information according to clear retention rules. Privacy must travel with the data, because the risk travels with it too. The chapter gives us a big toolkit, but the safest way to understand it is as a stack. At the foundation is design, privacy by design, impact assessments, purpose limitation, and collecting only what is necessary. The next layer protects learning. Differential privacy adds carefully calibrated randomness. Federated learning keeps data decentralized, and synthetic data can reduce exposure to real records. Then we protect computation itself through encryption, secure multi-party computation, and secure enclaves. Above that, access controls decide who can touch sensitive data or models, supported by multi-factor authentication, role-based permissions, and clear retention policies. But technology is not enough. People need education and awareness, because social engineering and careless handling can bypass impressive controls. Finally, assurance closes the loop through audits, transparency, accountability, and prompt breach notification. Notice what this stack is saying. Privacy is not a feature we bolt onto a finished model. It is built, verified, explained, and improved over time. Each layer catches a different failure mode, and the layers reinforce one another. Remove one, and the remaining controls have to carry more risk than they were designed for. Consent is often presented as a tiny box beside a long privacy notice. Chapter 7 asks us to think much bigger. Valid consent is an affirmative action. It must be informed, freely given, specific, and unambiguous. People should understand what data is collected, why it is needed, how it will be used, how long it will be retained, and what rights they keep. They must also be able to withdraw consent. But consent cannot carry the entire burden. Once data enters a GenAI system, governance has to preserve that promise. Governance covers availability, usability, integrity, security, ownership, access, storage, sharing, retention, deletion, and compliance. So imagine consent as a life cycle. We inform the individual. They make a meaningful choice. The organization uses data only for the approved purpose. Stewards govern quality and access. Audits check whether practice still matches the promise. And if consent is withdrawn, the organization must stop or adjust processing and honor applicable rights. The exciting shift here is from permission as paperwork to permission as an operating commitment. A checkbox records a moment. Good governance protects the relationship over time. Anonymization sounds binary. Either data identifies someone or it does not. In reality, Chapter 7 shows us a spectrum. Data masking replaces visible values with altered ones. Pseudonymization substitutes identifiers with tokens, while keeping a controlled way to reconnect them when authorized. Generalization reduces precision, perhaps replacing an exact age or location with a broader range. Data perturbation adds noise, so individual values are obscured while aggregate analysis remains useful. Each method changes the balance between privacy and utility, but then comes the uncomfortable question on the right. Can the data be re-identified? Auxiliary datasets, stronger analytics, and model inversion can reconnect supposedly anonymous records to real people. The Netflix Prize example discussed in the chapter demonstrates how external information can defeat traditional anonymization. So, anonymization is not an invisibility cloak. It is one control whose strength depends on context, available external data, and the attacker's capability. Stronger protection may combine anonymization with differential privacy, strict access controls, legal safeguards, and continuous testing. The practical lesson is simple. Never assume that removing a name removes the person. Test what can still be inferred. These 5 cases share a pattern. Generated information looks plausible. Plausibility creates trust. Trust triggers action, and the action creates harm. The first case is the most concrete. Attackers used deepfake audio to imitate a senior executive's voice, and the CEO of a UK-based energy firm transferred $243,000 to a fraudulent account. The response included stronger voice biometric detection and more rigorous multi-factor authentication for financial transactions. The second and fourth cases show deepfake content invading privacy and causing reputational damage, emotional distress, and blackmail risk. The third case moves from media to identity. An online marketplace found fraudulent profiles built from AI-generated names, addresses, and images, leading to losses and reduced user trust. The fifth case is especially interesting because synthetic data began as a privacy-supporting tool for fraud detection. Attackers accessed and manipulated it to improve their own fraud techniques, weakening the defensive model. So the lesson is not simply synthetic is dangerous. The real issue is how generated artifacts are secured, verified, governed, and trusted. Plausibility is powerful. Security controls must verify before people or systems act. Synthetic data captures the dual-use tension at the heart of GenAI privacy. On the protective side, it can reproduce useful statistical patterns without exposing real customer or patient records. Chapter 7 gives examples in financial fraud detection and healthcare model training. That creates room for safer testing, learning, and collaboration. But synthetic does not mean harmless. In the financial case study, attackers accessed synthetic fraud data and manipulated it to refine their fraudulent techniques. The institution's detection system became less effective, fraudulent activity increased, and the organization had to respond with stronger encryption, stricter access controls, and improved detection algorithms. The same generative capability can therefore reduce exposure or create a new attack resource. What decides the outcome? Controls. Who can access the synthetic data? Can its lineage and integrity be verified? Is it protected in storage and transmission? Are generated patterns monitored for misuse? This is a great example of why value and safety are not the same measurement. A dataset can be useful and still be dangerous when stolen, altered, or applied outside its intended purpose. Privacy-preserving innovation succeeds only when governance remains attached to the asset. Chapter 7 surveys 13 privacy regimes across 6 regions. The names and legal details differ, but recurring principles appear again and again. Consent, purpose limitation, data minimization, transparency, security, individual rights, and organizational accountability. Europe's GDPR has broad influence, including rights to access, rectify, and erase data, requirements for impact assessment, and expectations around explanation. The United Kingdom's DPA 2018 aligns with many GDPR principles. The chapter also covers California's CCPA, Canadian privacy laws, Mexico's federal law, Brazil's LGPD, Australia's Privacy Act and principles, South Africa's PAPIA, Japan's APPI, the Philippines' Data Privacy Act, Singapore's PDPA, China's PAPL, and India's 2011 IT rules. Now, the map makes an important point. Global GenAI systems still meet local obligations. Definitions of personal data, consent requirements, rights, sector coverage, and cross-border transfer rules can vary. The chapter also cautions that these laws are generally privacy frameworks, not regulations designed specifically for GenAI, so compliance cannot be reduced to one universal checklist. Organizations need common global controls, plus jurisdiction-specific analysis for where data originates, where it moves, and whose rights are affected. The future trends in Chapter 7 are not distant predictions. They are pressures already forming around privacy. More capable language models can reproduce or infer sensitive personal information from massive datasets. Deepfakes make identity, voice, and likeness easier to replicate without consent. Gen AI-driven analytics can infer intimate behavior and support invasive marketing or discriminatory decisions. Edge computing may improve privacy by processing data locally, but it also makes consistent controls harder across many devices. Federated learning keeps raw data decentralized, yet aggregated updates may still be vulnerable to reverse engineering. At the same time, enormous datasets continue to create breach and misuse risk. Bias can turn privacy failures into unfair outcomes in policing, credit, or hiring. Governance faces the challenge of protecting people, while technology moves faster than regulation. And ethical use keeps bringing us back to consent, reputation, and human rights. So the pattern is clear. Capability is rising, inference is rising, and control complexity is rising too. The future of privacy will not be solved by one breakthrough. It will require technical protections, evolving law, continuous monitoring, education, collaboration, and a willingness to redesign systems when the evidence changes. Let's close by turning the chapter into 8 practical questions. First, purpose. Is the use legitimate, specific, and clear? Second, necessity. Does the system truly need every data element being collected? Third, consent. Is permission informed, freely given, specific, and capable of being withdrawn? Fourth, protection. Are the data, the model, and the generated outputs secured through appropriate technical and organizational controls? Fifth, human impact. Could the system harm someone's identity, dignity, autonomy, reputation, or fairness? Sixth, compliance. Which jurisdictions apply, and can the system support the rights those laws provide? Seventh, monitoring. Can the organization detect leakage, misuse, model extraction, manipulation, re-identification, or changing risk? And eighth, accountability. Who is responsible for acting, explaining decisions, notifying affected people, and remedying harm? This is a gate, not a decorative checklist. The answer may be proceed, redesign, or stop. And because GenAI systems and threats evolve, the gate must reopen throughout the life cycle. Chapter 7's final message is energetic but disciplined. Innovation and privacy are not enemies. Trust grows when people can see that control, consent, security, and accountability remain attached to the technology.